Going, everybody. My name is Francisco Sanchez. I go by the name Cisco the Alpha. Sorry, I'm still a little emotional, brother. I'm still got 3 daughters, man, and I'm filthy, really good. I'm a real estate investor. Just started my 3rd flip. Part of Commander Peace Academy. I have mindset shift coaching that I do for men, where I help men achieve their best version of themselves. I'm always amazed, this is only our 2nd time here, but I'm always amazed when I see you guys just looking back up here, because this really just started from a conversation between Greg and I, talking about what was needed, and he picked up the phone and called Pastor Lily, and then we called, and that's just how this thing, now we're sitting here. And it's amazing how God works, and you know, how this just all came together, the location and everything. Sometimes I sit up here and I feel a little bit like, why am I here? I don't feel like I'm, you know, a doctorate student or you know, an activist. I'm not even from High Point. I'm from New Jersey originally. And one day, my wife, I got a 3-year-old son. My wife was about 7.5 months pregnant, and I just lost my job. And I'm sitting in that car, dreading the moment to come home and tell my wife I just lost my job. And I lost my job. It was my fault, by the way. My attitude. Couldn't take a guy that I felt I was smarter than talking to me like I was dumb. Lost my job. And I was sitting in this car and I said, I gotta go back to Jersey. I gotta go back to Jersey because, I'm sorry, I'm gonna take my glasses off. You know, it's easy to go back to that which is comfortable when you're at your worst, you're at your lowest. And I'm sitting there struggling, and I'm saying, and I'm praying, I'm asking God, just give me, how am I gonna explain to this woman? How am I gonna explain to her I gotta go? I gotta go get this money. She's 7, we in our 40s now. We ain't kids. She's 7.5 months pregnant, we got 3 other daughters. And I gotta go. She gotta understand I don't have no other option, right? But then God spoke to me in that car, he said, well, is that really your only option? Or are you just running back to that which is familiar? So I was coaching Little League football. Shout out to PMT Tigers. 10U just won a state championship. And I met a guy through the organization that was always telling me, man, I got this guy I want you to meet, man. You got to meet this guy. You got to meet this guy. And for some reason, God put his name in my mind that day in the car. And I picked up the phone and I called him. I said, hey, man, you remember you was telling me that day about this guy? He does this and this and that. He said, yeah, man. Every time I call, he's so busy, man. I can't up. Let me see if I can get him on 3-way. Calls him on 3-way. When he calls him on 3-way, he says, where do you stay at? I said, I stay over on the north end. Is there a Sheets over there? I said, yeah, it's a Sheets over there. He said, meet me by the Sheets. We need to talk. So I sat down, we met, sat down with him, back of the Sheets. And I told him my story. I told him where I was from. I told him what I was dealing with. And he looked me dead in my eye. He said, you're not going back to Jersey. I said, well, that's cool, brother, but I don't know if you heard me or not. I just lost my job. I got to get some money. I don't know nobody here in High Point. I need to go back home. I need to go back. He said, you're not going back to Jersey. I said, what type of work you do? I said, man, I'm a construction worker. I pick things up and put them down. That's what I do. I worked for a concrete cutting company for about 5 years. Before that, I was in Jersey, prison for 16 years, 1 month, 23 days for first-degree aggravated manslaughter. I grew up in the projects in Patterson, New Jersey. I grew up with a single mother, crack-addicted father. There was a whole story that came behind before I put this shirt on, before I decided to make a change. before I decided, my son, when it's all said and done, when he put me in the ground, if he can't say that that was the best father that ever lived and truly believe that in his heart, then don't nothing count. Nothing I did in the streets, nothing I did in prison. I was in prison and I was 19 years old when I got locked up. I was a kid. Ain't know nothing about nothing. All I knew was put these up, put your dukes up. That's it. And this one older guy, he came to me in county jail one day. He said, "Man, write the judge a letter. Tell him you sorry. They'll be easy on you." So I picked up the pen and paper. I said, "Okay, I'm gonna write this letter. Write this letter." I started asking myself, what am I gonna say to this man? What am I gonna say to tell him that I'm sorry? I was in jail for first-degree aggravated manslaughter. 19 years old, walking down the street, I got into a fight with the 17-year-old boy, fell, hit his head, and went to a coma and died. How do I apologize for killing a mother's son? And it hit me like a ton of bricks. So you put evil into this world. Now you gotta put some good into this world. Now you gotta how do you apologize to a mother for killing her son? You don't. You learn your lesson and you start to do good. And I started to do good. I came home and my attitude still wasn't right. Lost my job. I was a foreman, had my own crews. Attitude still wasn't right. My wife 7.5 months pregnant with my first son. And that day, God spoke to me. He said, pick up the phone, call Tony Graham. Tony Graham, he's not here today. Tony Graham picked up the phone. He called Greg. Greg picked up the phone. He called Chris. Chris gave me the opportunity of a lifetime. Never been educated. Prison, that's it. I went to prison when I was 19, didn't come home until I was 35. Think about that. My entire adult life. What we doing here today works. I can promise you that. I am here speaking today because I am living proof that this works. That we can come together regardless of what our backgrounds are, regardless of the mistakes we made. If you want to change and you want to put good into the world, then do good. And I'm going to leave you with this last thing. I spoke to somebody who was telling me something. And I was telling them my story. Grew up with a single mother. She was 16 when she had me. Father was 17. Was a crackhead my whole life. He's clean now, thank you, by the way. But he said to me, he said, Cisco, spell the word life. I said, L-I-F-E. He said, did you have any say on where the letter L went in that word? I said, no. He said, did you have any say in where the letter E went in that word? I said, no. He said, you had no say in the beginning of your life. You have no say at the end of your life. All you got is the I and the F in between, the if, the choices that you have in between. What we do today. I made a vow. 2 things. I'll leave y'all with this. Number 1, I took a life. And I vowed to put good into the world from here on out, from then on. And number 2, I got a 3-year-old little boy at home that I will not stop and I will not rest until when he puts me in the ground, he can say that that was the best father that ever lived. This is the mindset that I feel like we need to have when it comes to any one of our children. This is why I feel like we failed our youth.
The body putting in that work for the cause. When I got the news, had to drop down on all fours. Now it hurts when I go visit, he trapped behind the glass. The last time I seen him, it's the message that he passed. He said,
take these words home and think it through. You all alone in these streets, cousin. Take these words home and think it through. Every man for himself in his land, we be gunning. Take these words home and think it through. Speak the wrong words, man. home and think